Hello everyone, welcome to Gringa Spanish. My name is Christy and today we will be doing a grammar lesson. We will be going over the imperfect tense in Spanish. Today we will be going over regular verbs, which means the most common conjugations, the verbs that follow the rules, if you don't know. So if you don't know what the imperfect tense is, it is extremely useful. You will use it all the time and you will hear it all the time in Spanish. So if you remember from our lesson on the preterite, if you don't, that's okay. There are two types of past tense in Spanish. The first one is the preterite. The preterite describes an action that took place in the past at a definite time. And the difference is grammatical, because when you're describing a situation, depending on how you're saying it, the same action, you could say it in either the preterite or the imperfect. And you'll see as we go on through examples, and I'll explain more how that makes sense. So the imperfect tense can describe actions that were habitual or continuous. It can also be used to set the scene. So the example that I used last time was if a detective is asking you, where were you when she was murdered? Or when something happened. You could say, I was walking home. When you say I was walking, you're setting the scene. You're saying I was walking home when this happened. So that's setting the scene. So that's when you would use the imperfect tense in Spanish. Now, the same thing that you're describing, you could use the preterite. Because the detective could say, how did you get home that day? And you could say, that day I walked home. And it's not, I was walking home, it's just, I walked home. That's the same as the preterite tense in Spanish. So the difference is really grammatical. Either one can be used depending on what you're trying to say and how you're trying to say it. So I have some videos on the preterite tense already, and the conjugations for both of these are different. And today we are going to be learning how to use the imperfect tense in Spanish. So let's get right into it. So for AR verbs, let's use the example gritar, which means to scream. Present tense, yo grito, tú gritas, él grita, nosotros gritamos, vosotros gritáis, ellos gritan. Imperfect tense, this ending changes quite a lot. So you're adding an ABA to the end, and then all of them kind of follow the similar pattern that you should be familiar with by now. So you start with aba for yo, abas for tú, aba for él, habamos for nosotros, habáis for vosotros, and haban for ellos. So let's look at this. Yo gritaba, tú gritabas, él gritaba. And notice that in the imperfect tense, the yo and the él are the same. Where else have we seen this? We saw this with the subjunctive. So for the imperfect and the subjunctive regular conjugations, yo and él are identical. For other conjugations, they are different. Notice the present tense conjugation, yo and él, is different. But for some of the conjugations, imperfect and subjunctive, yo and él are identical. So don't be confused if you hear that. Now you may ask, how am I supposed to know which one the person means? Context. It's the same thing in English. Sometimes in English a word can mean different things. You can figure it out by context. And if it's a situation where you can't, you can ask that person which one they mean. Okay. Nosotros gritábamos. Vosotros gritabais. Ellos gritaban. So let's go over another example of when you would hear the imperfect tense. So gritar, like I said, that means to scream. So if let's go back to the detective example. Let's say the detective was saying, where were you when this took place? And you wanted to say, well, I was in the room next door and I could hear them screaming, but I was too scared to do anything. So notice how I said that. They were screaming. That's where you would use the imperfect tense in Spanish. So you would say, gritaban, they were screaming, and I didn't know what to do. All right, let's go over a couple more AR examples of regular verbs in the imperfect tense. So amar means to love. I know I did this one for the present tense, but the thing is, this is such a useful word. You will hear it in songs constantly. So I want to go over this word. Amar means to love. Yo amaba, I used to love. Tú amabas, you used to love. Él amaba, he used to love. Nosotros amábamos, we used to love. You could say nos amábamos, that means we used to love each other. Amabais, vosotros amabais, you all used to love. You could say you all used to love ice cream. If you don't know, if this is your first video, vosotros is not very common. It's mostly in Spain. I include it here for like AP Spanish students and people like that, but just conversational Spanish, you're really never going to hear vosotros. Ellos amaban, they loved, they used to love, they were loving. Mirar, that means to look. Yo miraba, tú mirabas, él miraba, nosotros mirábamos, vosotros mirabais, ellos miraban. So this means like they were looking or they used to look, and which one depends on context. So you could say like she was in the club and I was watching her. Yo la miraba, I was watching her. Or it could mean something you did habitually in the past, like I used to look at her every night. Yo la miraba cada noche. It can mean either one, totally depending on context. I used to do something or I was doing something. Trabajar means to work. Yo trabajaba. Tú trabajabas. Él trabajaba. Nosotros trabajábamos. Vosotros trabajabais. Ellos trabajaban. So, I didn't realize until I was writing this that trabajar becomes like the most monstrous word ever when you're conjugating it in the imperfect tense. Okay, and then just the AR endings. Let's just take a look at them by themselves. When you are conjugating a regular AR verb, AR is going to change into these. Aba, abas, aba, abamos, notice the accent, aba, and aban. Okay, let's go on to ER, IR verbs. We'll use the example vender. So notice that this is another example of a conjugation where the ER, IR verbs are together. So this happens in different places. In some tenses, ER and IR have their own separate conjugations. But in some places, ER and IR get the same conjugation, and the imperfect tense is one of those cases. So ER and IR will have the same endings. Let's use the example vender, which means to sell, to go over those endings. So just for comparison, let's remember quickly what the present tense was for vender. And it would be different for an IR verb, but we don't really have time for that, so just let's get some context with vender. Yo vendo, I sell. Tú vendes, you sell. Él vende, he sells. Nosotros vendemos, we sell. Vosotros vendéis, you all sell. Ellos venden, they sell. The imperfect tense, and again for ER, IR verbs, first person and third person, yo and él, identical. Yo vendía, I used to sell. Tú vendías, you used to sell. Él vendía, he used to sell. Nosotros vendíamos, we used to sell. Vosotros vendíais, you all used to sell. Ellos vendían, they all used to sell, or you all used to sell. Alright, let's go over a couple more examples of ER and IR verbs. Poner means to put. Yo ponía, tú ponías, él ponía, nosotros poníamos, vosotros poníais, ellos ponían. So poner means to put something somewhere. So a lot of the times you'll hear this in the preterite tense because it's such a short action that just realistically speaking, not often are you going to say, oh, I was putting this here when something happened, because that time window is just physically very short. That being said, you'll definitely still hear this in the imperfect because you could say you used to put something somewhere. I used to put my keys by the door, but now I put them somewhere else because of some reason. So poner, you will still hear it in the imperfect tense. Decir, decir means to say. Yo decía, tú decías, él decía, nosotros decíamos, vosotros decíais, ellos decían. So just a little side note, poner and decir are irregular in a lot of their forms, but the imperfect tense is actually regular. So you may remember poner and decir from other videos on irregular verbs. A lot of their forms are irregular, but for the imperfect tense, they just get normal conjugations. How convenient is that? Vivir means to live. Yo vivía, tú vivías, él vivía, nosotros vivíamos, vosotros vivíais, ellos vivían. So you could say, I used to live in California. Yo vivía en California. So er, ir verbs, let's just take a look at the endings by themselves. Both er and ir will be replaced with these. Ia, ias, ia, íamos, íais, and ian. And one last time, let's just compare the AR and the ER verbs side by side. These are your imperfect endings. For AR verbs, the AR will get replaced with these endings. For ER, IR verbs, the ER or IR will get replaced with these endings. AR is aba, abas, aba, abamos, notice the accent, abais, and aban. For ER and IR, ia, ias, ia, íamos, íais, and ian. So this is one case in which the AR and the ER verbs, or the AR and ER, IR verbs look quite different from each other, right? A lot of the time the endings are super similar, but just you'll have E's and I's instead of A's. But here they're really different. There's a B here that's not over here. They just look different, but these are the imperfect tense. So if you need to revisit this a couple times, don't worry. The imperfect tense is super important, super useful. You'll hear it constantly, and you'll use it constantly. All right, let's go over a couple examples. Yo te amaba con todo el corazón. I loved you with all of my heart. I used to love you with all of my heart. So yo, that's me. Te is a pronoun that's telling you who the verb is happening to. Amaba, that's amar in the imperfect tense. So it's I used to love you or I was loving you. Yo te amaba. I used to love you. The te is telling you who the amar is happening to. Con todo, with all, el corazón, the heart. But you understand from the context it's my heart. 2. No sabía que andabas tan lejos al trabajo. I did not know that you walked so far to work, or that you used to walk so far to work. So sabía is we didn't go over this one particular, but sabía is the imperfect tense of saber, which means to know. So to know something, knowledge. No sabía, I did not know, I was not knowing, I did not used to know. Que means that. Andabas, that's from andar, so that andabas, you used to walk, or that you were walking. Tan means so, lejos means far, so far, al trabajo, to work. I did not know that you used to walk so far to work. 3. Yo bebía el vino cuando ella me golpeó. I was drinking, remember, this is more of the setting the scene. If yo bebía el vino, that means I was drinking the wine, or more likely, if this was by itself, I used to drink wine, or I used to drink the wine. But with the rest of the sentence, cuando means when. So cuando ella, when she, me golpeó, she hit me. Golpear means to hit. So me, remember this is a pronoun telling you who the verb is happening to. She hit me. So yo bebía el vino cuando ella me golpeó. I was drinking the wine when she hit me. So this is a case when she probably spilled some wine. So 4. Mis padres siempre me decían que no. Mis padres, that's my parents. Siempre, always. Me decían, told me. Decir means to tell. Me decían, they used to tell me que no. That means no. Like in English, when you tell somebody no, you don't have to say that. You don't, like, she told me yes, she told me no. We don't say, like, in another example, you would say, she told me that it was raining. She told me that she had to go to work. So usually we say that. But in Spanish, but in English, when we say, she told me yes, she told me no, we omit the that. But in Spanish, we don't. So when you say, she told me yes, she told me no, you still say que. Me decían que no. They told me no. All right, we're almost done, guys. I just wanted to give you one really useful pro tip to end this on regarding ir, which means to go. Ir is irregular. That being said, ir is super useful in the imperfect tense. So use ir in the imperfect conjugation plus an infinitive to say that you were going to do something. So it's the same thing in English when you're saying you can use ir basically as a hack to say I am going to do something, basically to speak in the future tense by using the present tense of ir instead of knowing how to conjugate things in the future, which is fine. Honestly, either one sounds supernatural, the same as in English, like I'm going to the store, I will go to the store, like either one sounds fine. So it's not like people are going to be like, oh, this person is doing gymnastics to avoid using the future tense and they're talking weird. No. It sounds very natural. It's the same thing here. So, again, use ir in the imperfect tense plus the infinitive form of a verb to say that you were going to do something. So let me tell you, we will go over irregular verbs in the imperfect, but I just want to give you this one today so that you can go home with something super useful. Ir, the imperfect form of ir is iba, ibas, iba, íbamos, ibais, and iban. So let's go over a couple examples of this. Te juro que te iba a decir la verdad. So decir, that's the infinitive to say. Iba, that's I was going to. That's to go. That's ir in the imperfect tense. Te juro means I swear to you. Te juro que, I swear to you that, te iba a decir, that I was going to tell you. Iba, I was going, a decir, to tell you. Te, la verdad. I swear I was going to tell you the truth. Yo iba a hacer mi tarea. I was going to do my homework. Yo iba, I was going to, a hacer. Hacer means to do. I was going to do mi tarea, my homework, pero se me olvidó, but I forgot. Okay, guys, that's it for today. Look, we didn't even go over that much in this video. It's like 18 minutes long. This is why we try to keep things as short as possible. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. If this video helped you, please let me know by commenting, liking, subscribing. It really makes me feel great to know that somebody's watching these videos and getting something out of it. And did I make any mistakes? I'm not perfect, so let me know in the comments if I made any mistakes. Alright guys, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.